Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of my 4K video, the final part. Thank you so much to everybody who subscribed. I'm now over 100 subscribers. I am so pleased and I'm so glad that everyone's enjoying my Criterion collection and also my 4K collection so far. And I know some of you have been looking forward to part 3. So as you can see, I've got a fairly extensive 4K collection and there's still more to come, believe me. So we're moving on from where we left off at the end of the last video with the James Bond 4Ks. We're moving on with Casino, which came out as a 4K release. Fantastic transfer this, great performances from De Niro, Pesci and Stone, and I really love this Scorsese movie. This one's interesting. A lot of footage was shot during the Apollo 11 missions, especially at NASA Mission Control in 70mm. So it was quite easy to produce this Apollo 11 4K documentary. And it does look very impressive, the 4K footage on this. It's mixed also with 35mm footage as well. Then we have Godzilla, King of the Monsters. It was very good news that Godzilla 2014 is on its way to 4K. Red Sparrow, not a bad little spy thriller. I quite like Jennifer Lawrence as an actress, so I enjoyed this because mainly she was in it. It's nothing fantastic, but it's quite enjoyable. VFW, I don't know why I bought this, to be honest. It's pretty poor. Got a lot of these on the 2 for 30 offer at HMV. This is Universal Soldier, Van Damme and Lundgren. A good sort of team up between them two, and it's a very good movie. I really like it. One of my favourite Will Smith movies, just simply because of the sort of premise of it, I Am Legend. It has a funny ending, to be honest, but to be fair, the journey to the ending is quite enjoyable. A great coming-of-age movie, and I think one that launched the career of Ice Cube, to be honest, in film. Cuba Gooding Jr. is very good, and Angela Bassett as well, in Boys from the Hood. Then we have Rampage. He does this sort of stuff fairly well, Dwayne Johnson. It's fairly light. Unfortunately, the CG of the actual animals in it aren't particularly impressive, I thought. Starship Troopers, good transfer of this, and I do love this film. I'm a big Paul Verhoeven fan. He does this stuff so well, and I really enjoy Starship Troopers. Now, I have to say I prefer Alicia Vikander's Lara Croft to Angelina Jolie's Lara Croft. I just like her style better, and she sort of suits that role more, I think, and this Tomb Raider offering was very good. Couple more of those offers from HMV. We have Red Heat with Belushi and Schwarzenegger, good team up between them two there. And I've always liked this film when I saw it in the cinema many years ago. Alan Parker's Angel Heart with Bob De Niro as Cypher, and of course a really good performance from Mickey Rourke. Anna, not too impressive, to be honest. This is bringing a new actress called Sasha Lass to this movie, but I wasn't that impressed with it. Moving on, we have the second 4K becoming 60 frames a second release, and this of course is Gemini Man with Will Smith. A lot of people don't like that soap opera feel that it has in the picture. I didn't mind so much because it looks very impressive on 4K screen, but I think the film itself hasn't really got a very substantial plot. I've been putting off watching this. I still haven't watched it because of the bad sort of reviews it sort of got, so I'm holding back. I will eventually take the plunge and watch it. X-Men Dark Phoenix. Then we have Hellboy, which came out on 4K. Not a brilliant transfer, but it's okay. And then we have Hellboy 2 coming up as well. Then we've got Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Very good, this. Guillermo del Toro, of course, directed it. And it's got his style, his visual style, and some jump scares and stuff in it. So it's quite a good little film. Then we'll have the second 4K release from Kubrick, more 4K to come later this year with the Clockwork Orange. Very, very excited about the news that that's coming out. It's 50th anniversary this year. It came out actually in December 1971. There you go. So The Shining, of course, it's sort of gone down as a classic horror movie. A lot of people don't think it is a horror movie though, but it's a really good transfer of this brilliant Kubrick film. And then straight after that we have its sequel. It's of course not directed by Kubrick, but still very good, with Ewan McGregor as Danny grown up. And this of course is Dr. Sleep. Then we have a film which I wasn't very impressed with. It's got a lot of titling. The Legend of Tarzan, A New Threat Awaits. Well, if that's a new threat, you can quite frankly keep it. I wasn't very impressed with this. Good directorial film for Ben Affleck. This did very well for him. Argo, he's very good in it. It's based on a true story as well, and of course it's a very good backup cast in it. This one you should have in your collection. A lot of people think it's the greatest war film ever made. I don't personally agree with that, but it's a very good film nonetheless. And of course, it's mainly designed to look like one single camera shot most of the way through, and that's very impressive. And that's 1917. Another war film of a different type. This is a tense action thriller. It's 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. And I think, to be honest, I quite enjoyed this, especially John Krasinski in it. And then we have a biopic of Elton John. It's not a straight story told. I'm putting that as a pun, really, not really. But basically, Taron Egerton is very good in the tale, and it's sort of a surreal feel to it, which I quite liked, which jumped around his sort of history through his career. And I liked the way it did that. Rocket Man. And we come to Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. Great film from De Palma, this. Al Pacino, Scarface. It's a bit of a wild Scarface compared to the Paul Mooney one from the 30s, but suffice to say, he definitely stamps his identity on this role, does Al Pacino. Story behind this one, I bought this towards sort of the autumn of 2019, midsummer. I'm a big fan of Ari Aster. I like this better than Hereditary, to be honest. And I was really quite excited when I heard this was coming out in 4K, but not so pleased that I found it was only an Italian release. The downside of this is that all the captions are in Italian, and I don't speak Italian. So, of course, what ended up happening, as you can see on the screen now, is I ended up buying the A24 4K only release of the film in this beautifully presented book. And as you can see, the artwork is stunning in the book. Lots of original drawings, both in colour and, of course, it was charcoal or pencil. I'm not sure which of the two. And I still think this is his best work so far, Midsummer. And Florence Pugh, excellent in this film. That's Midsummer, Ari Aster. Now this next one, Game of Thrones Season 8, I am in the rather unique position of being still able to watch Game of Thrones for the first time. I bought the 4K box set when it came out, and I'm currently in the middle of Season 4. Very exciting point in the actual show, and I'm enjoying it so much. So many OMG moments, aren't there? I can't comment on Season 8. A lot of bad reviews on Season 8, a lot of hate coming back from this. But I can't talk about it because I haven't seen it. So I'm going to make my own mind up when I get to Season 8 and let you know then. A lot of people think this is Tarantino's best. I still think it's Pulp Fiction personally. But anyway, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's a good film. It works well. And it's the right sort of film for Tarantino to make at this point in his career, I feel. A lot of people thought Heath Ledger's Joker was the best Joker ever. I'm not saying that Joaquin Phoenix is better than Heath Ledger with Joker. He's certainly different and original, there's no doubt about that. And I really enjoyed this DC take on the Joker, and a really sort of solid look at mental health and illness and loneliness and what it does to you. It's a very sad movie, but incredibly well done. Whether he'll come back and reprise this role, I'm not so sure. I don't think he's that type of an actor, to be honest. Midway. Obviously, Roland Emmerich does disaster movies really well, but he also doesn't do a too bad job at the Pearl Harbor story. I think it works well. It's got a decent sort of roster of stars in it, and certainly the visual effects, the CG effects are fairly presentable. We got Le Mans 66 in the UK for this. This is the American release of the same film, Ford versus Ferrari. Apparently the Americans didn't really know what Le Mans meant, even though Steve McQueen made Le Mans in the 60s. Get that one. But anyway, Matt Damon and Christian Bale, two great performances in this as the two sort of drivers of the two separate companies coming together and fighting as well to win that Le Mans race. Boy, this was a wild ride, but isn't Nicolas Cage always wild at the best of times? It's a beast of a film. Colour out of space. This is the American release, which is why it's COLOR. I really enjoyed this. I'm not like most of Nicolas Cage's recent offerings, but I certainly like this. This film is about Mr. Rogers. It's a 70s TV series, and we don't really know much about it because it's an American thing. We were watching Play School in the 70s and things like that, and Camberwick Green and Trumpton. They got Beautiful Day in the Neighbourhood is this film with Tom Hanks in it. And it's not a bad little story of Mr. Rogers. A guy comes to sort of do a story for a newspaper for Mr. Rogers. And it's quite interesting. Tom Hanks is very good at being people, and he's equally as convincing as Mr. Rogers. When you see the documentary on there, he looks exactly like him. Now, I discovered this film more or less by accident, straight out of Compton. It's not a film I would normally have watched, but I have to say I was very impressed. I also discovered for the first time the music of NWA. I'm not really into rap music, but I must admit, the performances from Dr. Dre, Eazy-Z, Ice Cube, I don't know who MC Ren and DJ Yella are, was very, very impressive. And it told the story of the group and the struggle in Los Angeles at the time to sort of get their footing in the sort of music business, and how difficult it was, of course, for black guys to sort of be seen and heard. I really enjoyed this film, and I actually bought an NWA CD and watched it after. I listened to it afterwards. Cameron was sort of the instigator of this. Alita, Battle Angel, fantastic CG on this, and of course I did watch the 3D version in this same set, and that's equally as impressive. Now I'm going to make a case for this film winning Best Picture. A lot of people think La La Land should have been the Best Picture Oscar that year. Of course, nearly by accident it was, thanks to a Warren Beatty slip up. But I have to say, I think this was absolutely the right film for the Academy to choose. It had the right sort of storyline, it had character development in it, it had fantastic performances from both the young man and the older actor as that man grown up. It was a man discovering his sexuality for the first time, experimenting and moving forward in time, and not having come to terms with it at all. His past catching up with him and him trying to deal with it. And then, of course, the ambiguity at the end. I loved this film. And Barry Jenkins is a very masterful director, and it was a worthy win of that Oscar. The Mummy, Tom Cruise. That's two words, The Mummy and Tom Cruise. Do they go together? No. I like this slightly better than Get Out. Us. I was very impressed with Get Out, Jordan Peele. I hadn't really heard much about Jordan Peele until the film came out. I like this better simply because it had you sort of knew something was a bit off with it from nearly the very beginning, but you weren't quite sure what it was. And when you discovered the reveal at the end, which told you what actually had been going on, it was absolutely fascinating and very revealing. So I do definitely give my thumbs up for Us. I say thumbs up there because I did that deliberately, because apparently somebody has compared me to Roger Ebert. I take that as a compliment because he's one of the best movie reviewers in history, him and Gene Siskel. Okay, so Queen and Slim, Daniel Kaluuya. He's a very competent young actor, but I don't think this worked. I think it was a remake of The Badlands, and I didn't think it worked that well, to be honest. This is my all-time favourite film by Stanley Kubrick. Started life as a short story, The Sentinel, by Arthur C. Clarke. He combined forces with that author. in the late 60s and produced 2001 A Space Odyssey. And it is just amazing. A lot of people think it's a boring film, but I think they may be missing the point. It makes you question your existence, period, in the universe, and how really infinitesimal the Earth is and how unimportant we are in the scale of cosmic terms, and possibly the possibility that we've already been visited by an alien civilization. So this film covers all of those topics, and also a malfunctioning computer as well, thrown in just to boot. My all-time favourite, 2001. Then we have Sing, which is quite a nice little animated thing. Not too bad. I mean, it's a bit toffee, to be honest. Then we have the Bad Boys movies. I like the Bad Boys, the first film, of course, and a great team up with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. And then we have two more sequels to that. I think I had to make Bad Boys 2 because they just were under pressure. And it's not as bad. It's not as good as Bad Boys, but it's not bad nonetheless. And then we have here the American release of Bad Boys for Life, which came out not too long ago. Again, they're older, but they still sort of have that chemistry between them. Then we have the two Zombieland films. I'm not a massive fan of Jesse Eisenberg, I have to admit. I loved him in The Social Network because that role seemed to suit him down to the ground. But I'm not so mad on him in Zombieland, but I do like Woody Harrelson. I always enjoy Woody Harrelson on screen. So you've got Zombieland, and then of course you've got the sequel, Zombieland Double Tap. Then we have this film. Right, I'm going to tell this director off because he's a terrible director for putting himself in his own movies. Why he thought he could play Poirot? Because the moustache outacts him, to be honest. What a moustache. I mean, clearly it just fills the screen. When you go to cinema to see this darn thing, the moustache is bigger than the Brana. He does this all the time. He did it with Hamlet. He put himself as Hamlet in Hamlet. Stop doing this. Put other actors in your lead roles in your films, Brana, and just direct the films, please. There, that's told you. Now, we have... couldn't get this with a slipcover, unfortunately. Call of the Wild. I do like Harrison Ford. He's really getting old. It shows in this movie. But the dog wasn't convincing. I don't know why they didn't do a real dog. I mean, dogs can. They're very well-trained dogs, you know. But unfortunately, this dog's animated and it's a CG dog. And it just, you can tell at times it is. Right, we've got the Huntsman movies now. I've got two of them. We've got Snow White and The Huntsman, and The Huntsman Winter War. Or The Huntsman Winter's War, should I say. I enjoyed these. They're good little fantasy movies, and I quite enjoyed the feel of them. I think they worked very well. Now, the next one I'm going to show you a close-up of, because I'm really pleased this came out. This is the Studio Canal release of The Elephant Man. David Lynch really proved that he was a more commercial director with this movie, and it's a Mel Brooks produced film, of course, with Anthony Hopkins and the fantastic John Hurt as John Merrick. And as you can see, fantastic pop-up of the church there. And it also is in the set, a book, and some beautiful black and white photograph cards. Really nice presentation. I didn't buy the Criterion version of that because I felt that the Studio Canal version was more than enough. Now, moving down to my bottom shelf, we have a great film from Rian Johnson, Knives Out. I love the plot, the way it sort of develops in this, and of course a roster of stars, including the wonderful Jamie Lee Curtis. Interesting one, this one. Tim Burton, I think he's past his best, I would say. Really. Obviously Dumbo proved that as well, but I haven't bought Dumbo. I didn't like it at all. This is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Asa Butterfield is in this, and of course it's sort of typical starring vehicle for him. I like the effects in it, and it definitely got that sort of weirdness that Burton has shown so many times before. Now the next one is The Mountain Between Us. Good quality on this because it's set mainly in snowy mountain terrain, and this again is Idris Elba and Kate Winslet. Now they've never been together in a film before as far as I know, but the chemistry works really well there. Guy Ritchie comes back to us with The Gentleman, showing he can do this stuff so well. Fantastic cast. Charlie Hunnam, brilliant in this film. Hugh Grant, really, really good. And I really loved the Guy Ritchie feel that it had. I didn't like this at all. Preferred the animated version with Robin Williams more as a genie. This is Aladdin with Will Smith. I'm not a massive Disney fan, I have to admit. I've only got a couple of Disney 4Ks. I didn't like this at all. Then we have Creed and Creed 2. Obviously the Rocky saga came to an end, and they did a really good follow-up to it, to be honest, with Creed. And of course, the sequel to that, Creed 2. I think Creed's a better film, but certainly Creed 2 still up there. We have here Charlie's Angels. This is the original Charlie's Angels with Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore and Lucy Liu. Then we have King Arthur. This was awful. Charlie Hunnam's a decent enough actor, but it just didn't work with me for him as King Arthur. And quite frankly, David Beckham, I just didn't get the point. He can't act. He can play football really well, but he's a terrible actor. Sort of touched on racism, this film. Basically, it was sort of up with a few Oscar possibilities, but never really got through. The Hate You Give. It's only released as 4K in the States. Now, this one I bought really early on last year. I'm not going to buy it again because the UK release of this has been announced. The reason why it looks like it's in a UK cover is because the US cover was damaged when it arrived from the Postal Service. And as you can see, the discs inside, you've got the Blu-ray and you've got a nice artwork on Jojo Rabbit. I love this movie. Taika Waititi's really, really good as a director, and I just love the way he was in the movie as Hitler as well. It's so good. So funny and yet so serious as well. It's got a lovely balance between the two, and I love the young actor. I can't remember his name. Yes, Roman Griffin Davis in that. Really, really good. Well, I thought they couldn't really make any more Jumanjis after Robin Williams did such a marvellous job, but I was wrong. I loved both of these. I love Welcome to the Jungle, introducing these wacky new characters and the idea of the game. I thought it was very, very clever. It was a real sort of callback to gaming, wasn't it? And, you know, the stuff appearing in the air and things like that. And then the sequel was just as good, I thought. I just really enjoyed it. Had a real good laugh with both of those movies. Especially in the lockdown, they were just two movies that cheered me up no end. This is a good story of the finding and the killing of Osama bin Laden, and of course it has a great central performance in it as well. I love the director, Catherine Bigelow, from, of course, The Hurt Locker. She did a very good job on this as well. This is Zero Dark 30. I heard some bad things about this, so I haven't watched it. You can see the plastic covering is still on it. It's the remake of Pet Sematary. And then we have the Maleficent movies. Now, Angelina Jolie is getting older, but she certainly suits this role very, very well. This is Maleficent, and then, of course, the sequel, Maleficent, the Mistress of Evil. I prefer Maleficent, to be fair, because I think it was the first one, obviously, and her character does grow a bit in the second movie, but I do really like the first one more. Now, and then we've got the Jack Ryan box set. I used to have these on HD DVD, not all of them, I think only the first three, but I still prefer Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan. I didn't mind Alec Baldwin. I probably liked Ben Affleck less, and Chris Pine's terrible in the role, I think, in the final film, Shadow Recruit. But for me, my favourite Jack Ryan movie still is Clear and Present Danger. Now, this box set's very impressive. Classic 70s movies are getting a real comeback look on 4K, and deservedly so, because they were real hits of their time. And this is no exception. The Deer Hunter, Michael Cimino. It brought Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken into a movie, I think, where it just looked at the Vietnam War and looked at provincial life in an American town as well, both in the same film. As you can see, the set's very impressive. It has a book. There are cards in there as well, photograph cards, and a lovely presentation of this film. And there's a CD of the soundtrack with John Williams, not the not the Star Wars composer John Williams. No, I was really lucky to get hold of these because these are getting very rare and they're terribly expensive on eBay as well. We have Stranger Things Season 1, and as you can see, it just looks like a VHS tape. And even when you take it out, you could be fooled from a distance of it actually being a VHS. But if you open it up, you see inside, you actually have the discs. And you have a pocket with a poster in it. And it's all in really strong cardboard outer sleeve. And you think, well, they couldn't do any better with Season 1 release on 4K, but they did, because then they brought out a complete plastic box, just like a videotape cassette case, of Season 2, and that opens up like this. So you have a flip open like that, and then you have the discs inside, as you can see, and a nice little touch Hawkins video there, as you can see, all contained in this lovely strong plastic outer case. Obviously I don't know what they'll do with Season 3, whether we'll do the same thing. Let's hope they will. Studio Canal hit the mark again with a complete restore of Total Recall 4K Master, and the presentation on this is just superb. You will not only get the Jerry Goldsmith soundtrack, which is brilliant, but you also get all the recordings of all the adverts that Recall do in the train and everywhere, and all the incidental music that was recorded for the film on a separate disc. Very impressive. Not to mention lots of supplemental features on the film itself, a fantastic poster, a book about the film. It's just all in there. It's a brilliant set. Total Recall for its 30th anniversary. And then we have the Fast and the Furious. I'll just show you this one. This is sort of designed like the American, this is a UK release, but the American sort of fold over style. And as you can see, all the films and the features, so the films are in the first disc, features on the second. And as you can see, you basically got, it does fall apart a wee bit, but you get the idea. You just sort of have this flip over effect here. It's like a book, so you can just open it whichever film you want to see. I've only watched the first 3 of these movies. They're good romp, they're good fun. They're certainly adrenaline filled, but I will get to watch the rest eventually, but obviously it was just a nice set to have in my collection. Okay, we're carrying on. As you can see, I'm shooting this on a different day. The light may be slightly different, but hopefully they still look the same on camera, the 4Ks. So moving on from that box set of Fast and Furious, we have Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw. Bought this basically to complete the collection. Of course, they've announced another film coming out, so that will be on 4K before too long as well. Then we have a 3 Tom Cruise set that came out, I think was it last year? Probably was. Tom Cruise Days of Thunder, where he played Cole Trickle. Top Gun, fantastic Dolby Atmos mix on this. Tom Cruise, one of his more famous movies, of course. And Spielberg's War of the Worlds, also starring Tom Cruise. And then we have the remake of the anime, Ghost in the Shell. A lot of people don't like this. Scarlett Johansson. I've never watched an anime movie, so I quite enjoyed this. I thought the CG was very good on it, and just the general look and feel of it on 4K was very, very impressive. If you like your music, then John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd can deliver with Blues Brothers. And of course, I love that cameo from Aretha Franklin. This is a great movie, Damien Chazelle, my favourite one of his films, to be honest. J.K. Simmons does a fantastic job in this, and the sound is amazing, especially at the very end with Caravan. And Miles Teller does that final drum solo where he goes into literally overdrive, goes all around the room. Very, very impressive. This was interesting. I'd only seen Elizabeth Moss on The Handmaid's Tale, but when I saw her on this, of course, I realised what really very good actress she was on film. And the fear that she shows is really palpable in this. I love the way this was sort of an upgraded version of the Invisible Man story to suit the 21st century, and technology was used in it that made it really plausible. And I really enjoyed this film. Then we have Ghostbusters, put them in the right order, of course. Ghostbusters, my favourite Ghostbusters movie. Then we have Ghostbusters 2. not so good as a sequel. And this abysmal thing, Ghostbusters Answer the Call. I didn't buy this, to be honest. I got it free with the player. Good job too, really. Then we move on to the two Kingsman movies. This one, of course, was the first one, Kingsman Secret Service. And then we have Kingsman The Golden Circle. Taron Egerton's very good in both, but I prefer the first movie, to be honest. Of course, the new one's coming out, I think. Is it later this year? Well, hopefully it is anyway. Great film, this one, with Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, and Jack Nicholson. What a trio. Great road movie, this one. Easy Rider. Then we have the UK Studio Canal Reese of Leon and the UK Studio Canal Reese of Fifth Element. Both of these I really like, and I think the transfers are both better on these than the American version, and I'm told. Great Kubrick film, fantastic transfer here from Universal on Spartacus. Absolutely stunning looking. I managed to get this with a slipcover, very lucky. Managed to find it on eBay a little while ago. American made with Tom Cruise. Now, I cheated a little bit with this one. Arrow announced they were bringing Pitch Black out without a slipcover, but they did bring out the Blu-ray with a slipcover. How weird is that one? So what I decided to do was take the Blu-ray slipcover and put it on the 4K. And to be honest, it doesn't look that bad, really. It's quite passable. And it's a really good transfer. Hocus Pocus, I bought this to sort of watch at Halloween, and it's quite funny, and I like the three girls in it. I bought this one cheap in a sale. I think it was on Zoom or something. It's certainly not a patch on Richard Roundtree's Shaft. Then we have a great zombie movie. If you like Night of the Living Dead, then you probably love this. Zombie. It's sort of a classic, really, and it does really hold nothing back. Fantastic 4K transfer. Very difficult to get hold of this with a slip now as well. I'm only going to say it once, not 3 times. Beetlejuice. I love this movie. It's such a great feel for Tim Burton, this film, and I just love it. I love Gina Davis, and I love Michael Keaton's cheekiness in it, and of course Alec Baldwin. Really super little movie. Then we have Guy Ritchie and the 2 Sherlock Holmes movies. We have Sherlock Holmes, I think they came out the same day actually, and Sherlock Holmes Game of Shadows. Classic childhood film, well for me anyway, The Goonies. Fantastic that these are all coming out on 4K, yet another Kubrick release of Full Metal Jacket. Very excited, we got A Clockwork Orange later this year, and there's rumour that maybe we'll get Barry Lyndon and possibly even Eyes Wide Shut next year. Home Alone. I watched this on Christmas Eve. You either watch it on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, you take your pick. Lovely little movie. He snubbed the Academy Awards for this, Will Smith, because there was a big thing about black nominations at the time, and he was quite upset about it. He didn't get the Oscar, of course, concussion. But suffice to say, it's still a very good performance from him in this film. I really, really enjoyed it. I think you have to be a Darren Aronofsky freak to like this movie, Requiem for a Dream. It's their director's cut as well. It's a sort of weird trip, this. I really enjoy Darren Aronofsky's work. I loved Mother, so I didn't mind this film at all. Now we have the Now You See Me's. I'm not a massive fan of Jesse Eisenberg, as I said before, but these 2 movies, he's not in it overly so, but it's a sort of clever little thing, take on sort of magicians and playing tricks on people and illusions. Now You See Me, and then there's the sequel, Now You See Me 2. They're only both available in America at the moment. Moving on, we have the sequel to Independence Day Resurgence. I quite frankly don't know why they bothered with this. This came out late last year in the US, and I grabbed it. I had the Blu-ray of it, but I sold it, of course, to get this. The picture quality is a bit of an uptick, not major, and the sound is just ordinary 5.1, but it's a classic 5-part miniseries, an award winner, an original of its type, Chernobyl. And then 300, Zack Snyder, trouble saying his name, to be honest. Great film. Love that. I think Big Paulie watched this, I believe. San Andreas. This is the 4K release. That's the UK edition. Then we have District 9. I've got mine with a slipcover. I ordered it from the US because there seems to be this thing going on at the moment where a lot of 4Ks in the UK are coming out without slipcovers. Antebellum. It was okay. It wasn't a fantastic watch, but it was a new release, so I picked it up because of that, because I'm quite keen on seeing new movies on 4K. A good catalogue title. Natalie Portman, very, very good in this. This is Viva Vendetta. And then we have the Disney release that finally reached 4K of Mulan. I didn't watch the streaming one on Disney+. It says on the back it's spectacular. I don't think it's spectacular. It's good, but I don't know. They just seem to be doing this remake of all their animated features as live actions, and I suppose this is a pattern I think that will continue with Disney. Brilliant film. Really, really pleased to see this come to 4K. Fantastic performance from Christopher Walken in this movie, King of New York. And then we have, yes, Mr. Sam Raimi's Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. This is the UK release. And of course, news is that we're getting Army of Darkness by the end of this year. That is very exciting news. I am so pleased about that. Final few before we reach the box sets. This is Collateral from Tom Cruise. I love Tom Cruise and I love Jamie Foxx in this. I think they're both equally matched, and that's very rare in a movie to see both stars at the same level. And I love Michael Mann's work, and so excited that we're getting Heat later this year. Then we have The Wizard of Oz, a classic I think you have to have in your 4K collection. It's a good film and a great transfer. Love and Mustard. Picked this up because I like Dylan O'Brien, and of course it was again a new movie on 4K. I haven't watched it yet, so I'll let you know my opinion when I actually see that. And I did buy it, more or less out of intrigue. Before all the hate came along, really, I'd pre-ordered it, to be honest. It came and it sort of went without too much of an impression on me, really. I agree with a lot of what people have said. It's poorly executed, and you know, there's a few decent performances in there, to be honest. There's nothing outstanding about the movie at all. Now, here we go with the box sets. Now, my plan is I'm going to pick up both of these in the summer when they're released as a full re-release with all the features and documentary stuff. But to not resist the 4K of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit is very foolish, to be honest, because we waited so long to see them on 4K. They're absolutely stunning. I think they had a DTS-ES mix on sound when they came out on the box sets of the Blu-rays, and I was very impressed with that. 6.1 I think it was referred to at the time. And this is full Atmos, and it's just absolutely blows you away. The battle sequences, and especially in Two Towers, are fantastic, and obviously the Battle of the Five Armies. Wow. I mean, you know, the both of them I think stand on equal footing, I would say, with quality of picture. Obviously The Hobbit's a newer release, so it is more finite detail, I think, in the picture. But these two box sets are very, very nice together. I managed to get them, I think, for £64 straight off Warner Brothers, which is, I think, the cheapest price I've seen them for so far, because they give me a discount through this newsletter sign-up option I had as well, which meant I could buy more releases at 10% off. So they're very good at doing that sort of thing, Warner Brothers. Okay, so we have Blade, came out late last year. Great transfer, and I love Wesley Snipes, of course, as Blade. Maybe they'll bring the others out on 4K, although they're not really as good as Blade, to be fair. Great vehicle for this in the 80s, really. Did it launch Eddie Murphy? I think it really did launch his career in cinema, to be honest. And this, of course, is Beverly Hills Cop. Super music on this from Ennio Morricone, and of course, a fantastic little story. Cinema Paradiso, the 4K release from Arrow. I think there's two separate covers for this in the US. I've got the black and white looking cover. There's a still coming up now on the screen in the corner of the colour cover that exists in the US. Just potluck, I think I got this one from UHD and that's what came. Haven't watched this yet, but I did love Train to Busan. Possessor, the son of David Cronenberg, Brandon Cronenberg. He certainly has an eye for horror, like father, like son. Some horrific things in this movie and a very interesting premise. It's very short, which I think is actually one of its saving graces because it doesn't sort of get too bloated in time or in exposition. It goes fast forward to a certain extent. Then we have Le Cercle Rouge by Jean-Pierre Melville. Good new wave cinema. My friend bought me this for my birthday and really passable 4K transfer on this. And Kino Lorber are back with Mad Max. News has it they may be doing Mad Max 2 as well in 4K, maybe later this year. It certainly makes sense for that to follow. But of course this is a classic with Mel Gibson as Mad Max. Now we go on to some smaller box sets before we reach the bigger boys, so to speak. Mostly boxes that have come out recently. This is the Arrow release of Crash. Great Cronenberg movie this, and of course it comes with a nice presentation artwork of Crash, which was specially done. And then you also get the booklet here, very detailed booklet. And you also get a nice poster of Crash. I'm not sure you're going to see all this when it opens up on the screen, but you might be able to see that much. And as you can see, it's quite a big poster as well. It's A3 size when it unfolds. And that's a lovely release. I ended up still buying the Criterion release of Crash simply because, unfortunately, the interview, although the interview with Cronenberg's on both discs, what isn't on the this disc, of course, and on the Criterion is the commentary by Cronenberg. And he's a very intelligent man and it's a brilliant commentary. So unfortunately I've ended up with 2 copies of Crash. And then the other thing, of course, is this. This is the box set version of E.T., a classic Spielberg film. Some nice goodies in this. A nice lenticular cover, as you can see. I can just show you that to camera. And then obviously you've got inside the lovely glossy E.T. extraterrestrial book. A lovely edition. It's not the whole soundtrack, but most of the soundtrack of E.T. That's a lovely touch from John Williams. And this is the Amore case. This is the American release, by the way. And that's the Amore. I think we did get the same set in the UK. I'm not sure if we did. I'll check, and if we didn't, I'll put a caption up while I'm speaking now to confirm or deny that fact, because I do like being accurate about these things. This is great. It had a funny misprint on the booklet when it came out. This is the booklet. I think the pages were reversed, but lovely glossy booklet, absolutely packed full of information about the film. And it's certainly the best version of Jaws I've ever seen. It was just like watching the film for the first time with the Dolby Vision and the Atmos sound. It was just tremendous. And the booklet's a nice touch. And that was the HMV Cine edition of Jaws that came out. And then we have this. Wow. Arrow are just doing an amazing job with these 4K releases. This is Tremors with Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward. Again, a fantastic book inside this. Lovely artwork there, as you can see. And then you've got tons of extra features on there. The actual poster of the movie, I'm not going to open that right the way out. And then this interesting thing as well, I'll just show you this partially. It's sort of like, it's like that. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that on the camera. But basically, it's a super little release. And it just reminds me how cute the film was and how cleverly it was done. And the effects, to be honest, on the monsters, does hold up quite well, actually, considering the age of the film. Right, so now I'm going to take you through the larger box set. We're going to end with Games of Thrones, but we start off with the biggest in the list, and it's fantastic. And as you can see now, it's Columbia Classics Volume 1. They are leading the field with this, with the catalogue transfers. They did just a splendiferous job on this. As you can see, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Dr. Strangelove, and Lawrence of Arabia. Everyone's waited so long for Lawrence of Arabia, and it's here, and it's stunning. Now, the Lawrence of Arabia is spread over 2 discs, which is brilliant because the bit rate's so high and the picture quality is second to none. And then you've got the second 3, which are Gandhi, also spread over 2 discs, A League of Their Own, and of course Jerry Maguire. And as you can see, fantastic book, hardback, full of information about the transfers and restorations, which filmgoers love to read, and the quotes as well, as you can see. Tons of quotes on the back and the front inside cover of the book. They're announcing volume 2 later this year. They did a survey asking who would you pick film-wise to be in volume 2, and lots of people said things like Social Network, Taxi Driver, stuff like that. So hopefully that will come out maybe in the autumn of this year. Very excited for that if it does hit the streets, so to speak. Columbia Classics volume 1. Then we have the Harry Potter. They come out in America as separate releases. Badly got the box set here in the UK from 1 to 8, and as you can see, nice Amaray cases. No features on these discs whatsoever for the UK release, and they're just the movies. And then we have Transformers. My favourite of these is number 1, the first film, and Age of Extinction, and the Last Night. And The Last Night you can forget about, to be honest, but as you can see from the cases there, you're seeing pictures of them all. And they're in a sort of fairly flimsy cardboard case. And then we have the Bourne collection, and as you can see, the Bourne Identity, the Bourne Supremacy, the Bourne Ultimatum, the Bourne Legacy, and Jason Bourne. Remembered all them off the top of my head. That was clever without looking at the box. Most of them are 2K upscales to 4K. The only original 4K transfer is the Bourne Identity, the first film, and Jason Bourne, the last film. But there you go. It's nice to have in your collection. Beats the Blu-rays by a little bit. Now, back to Studio Canal. They're doing an amazing job as well with 4K box sets. There's 2 I want to show you. We've got the fantastic Flash Gordon. This is absolutely jam-packed with stuff, and as you can see, there's posters, there's a book, there's a comic book, there's a patch for your jumper if you want to iron it on. There's a soundtrack of Flash soundtrack from Queen, and lots of sentimental features, and the picture transfer is superb. That's Flash Gordon. And then we have the other fantastic Studio Canal release, Total Recall. Again, you've got a book in that, you've got a poster in that, and what's amazing about that, you've got the whole of the soundtrack from Jerry Goldsmith, but on the second disc you've actually got all the incidental music, including the advert music used in the Recall adverts, and all of the incidental themes that were used as well, the little tiny what you call stings that Recall use. So there we go with that release as well. Fantastic box set from Studio Canal, Total Recall. Then we have the big A. Everyone was waiting for this one. George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Another stunning box set, packed full of stuff, multiple cuts of the movie, all restored. Fantastic soundtrack as well, which it doesn't sort of get heard very often, and now it's mass produced as well in the limited box set. A novel and a detailed book on the movie. What more could a collector ask for? Dawn of the Dead. And then we move on with some smaller box sets. Back to the Future, the ultimate, and obviously they're all 4K mastered. The Americans got a sort of fold-out book style. We got the sort of plastic Amaray, sort of the plastic cases. And as you can see, it's great to have the 3 films all on 4K at last. And then we have the Matrix trilogy. Basically all 3 on 4K, Matrix, Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions. 4 films on that, Rear Window, Psycho, Vertigo, and The Birds. Great classics from Hitchcock, beautiful transfers. The Vertigo transfer is stunning, looks like it was made yesterday, amazing. And I'm going back to camera on this one. This is the German release of the Fallen films. You've got Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, and Angel Has Fallen. Angel Has Fallen's already in the US and in the UK on 4K. I think I bought it actually. But this is slightly different because, unfortunately, and you need to be aware of this if you buy this, all the titling, like sort of the captioning, is in German on the film itself. So if you see whose profession it is, they're talking about it's in German, the time of the day. If they say 7 o'clock at night, it's in German. But if you turn the English subtitles on, then you will see that in English. I speak German, so I was all right with that. So basically, great transfers on these, and my favourite still is Olympus Has Fallen. Just before we get to the big set, we've got Great Nicholas Rogue, again Studio Canal, set of Don't Look Now. Fantastic performances from Sutherland in this, and of course from Julie Christie. And great presentation book in this as well. You've got the soundtrack album of this, which I'd never heard before, which is a lovely touch. And of course, a fantastic transfer. The red on the girls' coat's just amazing looking. The Resident Evil film set, which came out more recently. Nice sturdy box, and then inside you've got all the movies, and as you can see, we're going through all the titles one at a time here as I'm speaking. And then we finally come to the 4K Game of Thrones. I think it's 200 quid, but it was worth every penny, I felt. As I said earlier, when I spoke about Season 8 separately, I have never seen all of Game of Thrones. I'm still only about 2 episodes from the end of Season 4 now, and I've got Season 5, 6, 7, and 8 still to come. So to see it for the very first time in 4K is an absolute treat. The presentation on this is very basic. You just get the 4Ks inside. But it's all in Dolby Atmos, of course, sound, and Dolby Vision picture. And you get a little booklet which gives you the episode breakdowns. I have all the Blu-rays, so I take the little booklets out of each Blu-ray because they give you a little bit more information, and I use those and refer to those when I'm watching the set. So there we go. That is my 4K collection at the moment, sort of up to date. So the next video will be a Criterion update video. I hope you look forward to that if you're into Criterion. And please everyone, stay safe and keep watching those movies.